disapproval, emotionally distant parents, sexual, physical, or emotional abuse, bullying, academic problems, and so much more. That is associated with low self-esteem. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to episode 79 of the Positivity Experience, identifying low self-esteem. And let's turn that around. Check it out. Welcome back to episode 79 of the Positivity Experience. It's your girl, Lori. And man, I got a lot to catch up on. But before I do, I want to give a massive shout out to our newest Patreon members over at the gratitude level. We have Alexandra. We have Cameron Mosley. Now, Chrissy, I'm sorry if I messed this up. Chrissy Meisenheimer and Monica Carrillo. Listen, I'm not good at names, but I love you guys nonetheless. Over at our abundance level, we have Pamela Wheeler. No relation, but hey, Pam, what's up? Love your last name. Lisa Roberts, hope you're doing well. Erica Lenz and Jamie Bertelson. Thank you guys so much. Sorry if I was late getting to you guys, but remember last week's episode was pre-recorded. And if you guys are wondering what Patreon is, now this is the free podcast. It will always remain free. The Patreon is a paid version of the podcast that gives you tools on what we're talking about. So I'll give you different exercises that you can do to try to execute what we're talking about. If that's what you're interested in, there's always a link here in the show description notes, or you can go over to Patreon and look up the Positivity Experience Toolbox because it gives you tools. So thank you guys. Huge shout out. I am back from Los Angeles. For the last week, I have done no working out. I did do my clients. That sounds weird. I did have my clients, but I have been laid out. I had the best time out there, got to meet some amazing creators, went to all of the parties, did all of the things, ate all of the food. It was just a really good vibe, got a lot of merch. It was just a really great experience. Thank you to Spotify and Amazon Prime and Meta and TikTok and YouTube. It was just great. And I did an amazing talk out there, and I had a great group of people to come to see me there at VidCon. And if you want to go see that talk, it's like 16 minutes. It's over on my YouTube, also called the same, The Positivity Experience. Can't miss it. But if you want to go over to YouTube, you can grab a look at that. I'd appreciate it. But I'm back. Now, next week's podcast is going to be on grounding and why it's important. I am going to record that today because hopefully by the time you're listening to that episode, I'm actually in Ireland with my friend Casey, who is taking me as her +1. Something you should know, if you ever want to take me on a trip overseas, yes, I will happily be your +1. No need to ask. Yes, clue me in. So I am going to be recording both of those today. But you know what? I love you guys and I'm here and I'm ready to jump into this self-esteem episode because so many of my clients, and I mean, to be fair, I think we all struggle at some point in time in our lives with our self-esteem, right? And there's so many reasons that come into play with that. And you know that my approach to everything is going to be extremely direct because this is the only way I know how to be. So I'm not going to give you necessarily a gingerly approach. I never will. It's just not really my vibe. It never will be. And it's important that you understand that just because you've gone through things, it can't be an excuse. It's a reason why you have the low self-esteem. You can't live in a victim mentality to keep blaming that. I will never co-sign a victim mentality. Unfortunately, that trauma is never your responsibility, but healing it is 10,000% your responsibility. And to stay in a space of saying, this is how I was raised, without actually really diving into it, it's going to become problematic because it's not anybody else's responsibility to heal that trauma. I know it's kind of sucky, but it is what it is. Unfortunately, a lot of the people who cause the trauma aren't even in therapy. And it is what it is. And if you hold on to that, it's going to be super problematic for your self-esteem. But if you heard in the beginning of the trailer, at the beginning of the podcast, there's several reasons of self-esteem, and we're going to talk about it, right? And then kind of helping you try to understand the process of how you would change. And then over on Patreon, I'm going to give you a couple exercises, a really good exercise that's going to help with your self-esteem. But one of the things that we're going to give a list here. It's, the authority figures, your teachers, your parents that are constantly like, no, I don't like that. No, you're stupid. You could have done this better. Like constant disapproval, right? So if you are feeling some kind of way, Also, unfortunately, the gaslighting piece of it is if you say, oh, I feel sad, and they go, no, you don't, like they're dismissing your feelings. But now remember, feelings are not facts, and they don't have to be facts to the person who's saying it. Now, it's not okay for them to dismiss your feelings, but they don't have to walk around on eggshells for your feelings. But that does cause some of those self-esteem issues. Also, and that's the same with like emotionally unavailable parent figures or whoever's raising you in the home. And it's weird. So like I'm 51, and I'm not saying that things are always that much better with the newer generation, but very much, and definitely within my parents would have been old enough to be my grandparents. But in that generation too, you didn't really say, I love you, or you didn't have all this quality time. It was just like, hey, if you got food on the table, you got a roof over your head and clothes on your back, then I love you. Like, that's it. I expect a lot of things from you. So to you, though, that may have been very emotionally distant, right? If it wasn't what you had thought it should be, or how you would have felt that it wanted to be. But that will also cause self-esteem issues. Obviously, the big one, sexual, physical, and emotional abuse. Okay? Because obviously that's literally breaking your spirit in every way, shape, or form. And as a person who's gone through every single one of those, sexual, physical, and emotional, I will tell you that when you embrace that, and we'll get into that in a minute, when you embrace the fact that you're not responsible, yes, you are on the receiving end of it, but you're not responsible for the person's actions, it really helps with that self-esteem place. But we'll get there in a minute. But at the end of the day, understanding that the emotional, physical, and sexual abuse can absolutely and will absolutely destroy your self-esteem. Right? If there's stress in the family, let's say your parents are in divorce, let's say they are, it doesn't matter. At this point, it's like that constant stress. And this is something, and I know a lot of you know this, especially if you're my clients, I am never, ever, ever in a million years going to ever co-sign to stay with somebody because of children. Ever. Ever, ever. It's going to be quite the opposite of that. Just because you stay in a situation that you don't want to be in, or that might not be in the most healthiest for you, doesn't mean that all of a sudden the kids are great. Just because you're not physically saying it doesn't mean that people can't pick up on energy. Energy is key to life. People can. So especially though, if there's constant arguing, constant fighting, now there's a divorce happening, now there's arguing and everything, that can also break spirit, because even though you could say and reassure the kids 5,000 times to Sunday that it's not their fault, they're not responsible for this divorce, all of these things, it doesn't matter. They still pick up on that energy. That's why protecting peace is always like the main key to life, because of energy, right? Obviously bullying. Bullying can rip it down. I think I've told you guys this. So 70s and 80s, I went to school in the 70s and 80s, and we didn't have I think we did have, no, we didn't have contacts. And I had quite literally Coke bottle glasses, and I have astigmatism. I'm nearsighted and farsighted. Super happy with that. Been that way since I was 5. And I had these. And when I tell you they were giant glasses, I will find a picture and put it up on like Patreon or up on the website or something. Big, giant glasses. And it looked like my eyeballs were bulging out of my face, right? And then obviously dealing with the alcoholism and things like, us being, we were definitely considered more of like that white trash kind of house, just because of everything that was going through. So we were judged on that. And then because my mom loved going to the thrift store, which great, I love that too. I had a favorite pair of jeans that became high waters. And while people aren't really teased like that anymore, we were teased for everything. So it was like, oh, is a flood coming? Like, look at you, so I was teased constantly. And, it's tough because you want somebody to protect you. But the reality is, yeah, and that's a weird slippery slope, but people can't always come to your defense either. So comes a level where you have to be able to stand up for yourself. Obviously at first, second, third grade, that was a little difficult, but it was also the time, right? It's not an excuse. It's a reason. Like people, there wasn't a no bullying initiative. It was survival of the fittest. And no, I would never co-sign that for somebody, but I will tell you my skin is extremely thick. And not from a protective standpoint, like I'm fine, but there's a lot of work that goes into that. It's not something that I would ask you to go do to toughen yourself up. No. Obviously, if you're not doing good in school, since we're sticking on like a school thing, yeah, that's going to stress you because you're going to be like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Like, why can I not pay attention? And again, at least now we're in a time where, listen, people know about ADHD. I have adult ADHD. I'm fine with it. I have OCD. It's all those things. I embrace it. I wear it proudly like a crown. But you have to understand that very often, sometimes you're told, hey, sit down, simmer down. What's wrong with you? All of these things. So you don't even know. So then when you say, I don't know what's wrong with you, you say, I don't know what's wrong with me. Somebody goes, well, what the hell is wrong with you? What do you mean you don't know? So now you're like, oh my God, I don't know. I must be stupid as hell. What is going on? I don't know what to tell this person. This person wants some answer, and any answer I give them is wrong, and I don't honestly know. And that is okay. Religious guilt. I've had this. There's a whole podcast a couple episodes ago on religious trauma. Religious trauma will definitely break your spirit, right? So if you're doing something, let's say you're raised in an extremely religious family, doesn't matter what denomination it is, and you're gay. And in whatever this religion is that in which you're practicing or which is you've been growing up in, that being gay is wrong. It's not, people would say really mean things about Adam and Eve, and it's just a lot of things that I heard growing up. And, so imagine you being a person who, by the way, being gay is not a choice. It's who you are. That's great. It's not a choice. Right? That's ridiculous to think that it's a choice, that somebody's choosing a difficult path in life. And it's sad that it's a difficult path in life, but it's because you have people who are so determined of it only being one way, like this is wrong. Okay, well, if you're not into gay marriage, then you probably shouldn't get gay married. That's really easy for you to avoid. If somebody gay comes up to you and says, will you marry me? You should by all means say, I'm not going to marry you. Yes, that's absolutely true. And here is the thing with that. This can break your esteem. This can break your spirit. And it doesn't even have to be on that level, just on any level. Like, oh, if you do this, that's wrong. If you do this, that's wrong. And then you go, what's wrong with me? So then you start second guessing yourself. And in that second guessing, now you're like, well, what the hell? I guess I'm just wrong. Everything about me is bad. So now you're a bad person. You're not, but in your brain you are. That's going to break that down, right? And of course, beauty standards is a whole other one. Right? So you're sitting there and you're breaking down in the beauty standards. Sorry, I make myself laugh. In the beauty standards and maybe even the booty standards. But it is true. Like you look and you go, I'm less than. But remember this, you're filtering everything through your lens, just like everybody else is filtering everything through their lens. Okay. So when somebody's judging you and they're making these harsh determinations for you, this is them judging or giving you an opinion through their filtered lens. I told you one of the best things that probably ever happened to me, many of the best things that happened to me, is I work with clients all over the world. So I deal with different cultures, different religions, different everything, right? So amazing because it gives me such a space to open up my eyes and see things differently. But because I put my ego down years ago, I'm able to see it and go, wow, I really appreciate their culture. I appreciate what, their way of life. I may not agree with everything and I don't have to do the things that they do, but I can appreciate it without judgment. Not everybody is going to be at that space. And if you're sitting in judgment with somebody else and you don't really know them and you're judging their culture without knowing them, then you want to check yourself. Okay, so now that judgment, you don't have to rock with them. I'm not asking you to rock with it. But when you have an open mind, that's going to build your self-esteem, not shut it down. And we'll talk about that in a minute, right? And, think about some signs that you have low self-esteem. Self-doubt, that's an obvious one. Shame, because shame is ridiculous and stupid and non-productive whatsoever. Negative thinking in general. So if you're always looking at the negative side of it, negative, yes, you have low self-esteem. Okay. If you refuse to take accountability for yourself and you blame everybody else, this goes back to victim mentality. If you're living in a victim mentality and you want everyone to tell you that you're good or that they're wrong and you're trying to hold out on that, that's low self-esteem. Don't think that that's anything else. Okay. No boundaries, obviously. If you don't have boundaries and you say that people overstep them and you don't understand that people can't overstep them without you allowing that, that's low self-esteem. Social withdrawal, right? That's pretty typical. Defensiveness. Defensiveness is a sign of it's insecurity, which is low self-esteem, right? Not knowing how to take a compliment. And I know a lot of you who are my clients who are listening to this are in that category because I tell you this all the time. I'm going to keep complimenting you. I'm going to keep complimenting you because it's true. Right? And it's true because if I think that you're beautiful inside and out, I'm going to tell you. I don't care what you think about yourself. I know what I think about you. And just because you can't take a compliment because you don't believe in yourself, we're going to get you there to where you can take a compliment and be like, I know, thanks. Other people, see, you're in your head about other people saying that you're arrogant. The reality is very often people who are confident and have self-esteem and self-love are always going to be accused of being self-absorbed and, all of those things. There's just a whole assortment that comes up there. Not your problem. Okay. And also, it can also be physical symptoms. You can have headaches, backaches, insomnia, tired all the time. Yes, that could be a million other things, so don't go self-diagnosing yourself. But there's so many different areas that can that make you get in that state of self-doubt. So let's kind of talk a little bit. And like I said, over on Patreon, we're going to go a little bit deeper on a couple different exercises. But it's important that you understand that your low self-esteem that you're carrying with you, okay, is not your stuff. Now, you've adopted it, right? Because it's now become a default for you. But again, I really want you to be mindful of these words that I've said before. A person is judging you based on how they're filtering it through the lens in which they see out of. Now, granted, it pertains to you as well. So if you were made to know that if you don't make your bed every morning, you're a slob and lazy, not true, but whatever. Okay. If you're made to believe that growing up and you go over to your friend's house and her bed's unmade and you think to yourself, you don't really say anything to her, but you kind of go, damn, she didn't make her bed today. Well, okay. She doesn't have to. Why do you think that she has to do it the way you have to do it? That's the first thing with self-esteem. Self-esteem is to know that people are different than you and that's okay. That people don't have to call you on your birthday just because you call them on their birthday. People don't have to invite you somewhere because you're going to feel insecure about your FOMO, but your insecurity is now suddenly their responsibility to make you feel better. And you're taking their lack of invitation as you being less than. That's your stuff to process. That's yours. That's not for them to make you feel better and call you and be like, hi, I know I didn't invite you last night, but I really wanted to spend time with just my sister. It really isn't anything personal to you. No, that is no one's responsibility. So self-esteem is only ever going to come from self. So it's a redirect. So essentially what I want you to eventually get to, and it's what I work with my clients on, is allowing yourself to be in a space to where you accept who you are and be okay with pissing people off. See, that's the thing. You keep trying to make everybody happy. That is, people pleasing is 1,000% low self-esteem. 1,000% low self-esteem. So if you're not in a space of knowing who you are, which if you didn't listen to last week's podcast, episode 78, I think 78, was on who are you and stripping away the labels of like mom, teacher, doctor, like those things. Please go back and listen to it because you are defining yourself. And the reason you have low self-esteem is, let's go to that example I gave you. Okay, let's say you're gay and you're in a family that doesn't like gay people, like literally just can't stand them. And then you go, oh my God, what if I'm ostracized? Oh, well, then be ostracized. Get out of the house, disconnect them, block them, and never speak to them again. See, the key is when you have self-esteem is to know that you are enough for yourself. You don't need, trust me, I promise you this, you would much rather be alone than be around people that are judgy AF and that does not bring anything to your table. If somebody doesn't make you move the needle to either make you question yourself to better yourself, encourage you to better yourself, not give in and enable you, then why are you around them? Why are you around them? That's something to evaluate. Because when you have high self-esteem, you're able to appreciate someone's boundaries without liking them. You appreciate where they are. You're also able to be mindful that everybody is different than you. And you can give somebody like, okay, good. I don't have to understand that, but that's good for them if that works for them. See, when you have self-esteem, it isn't just about you. It is about you, but it's not just about you. Your relationships become stronger. Your relationships become deeper. Everything that you do becomes intentional because you realize that it's bigger than you. Believe it or not, when you have, here's a good gauge. If it's all about you, like it's all me, I, me, this is how I feel, what are you doing, and me, I, low self-esteem. If you're like, I want you to win, and if I win, you win. I want to see you succeed. I'm not going to compare myself to your journey. I'm not going to compare myself and say, oh my God, why am I not this person? I'm going to encourage, I'm going to love to see people succeed. I want them to be successful. I want them to feel good about themselves. When you have high self-esteem, your literal internal selfless love shows. Because essentially, when you're in low self-esteem, what you're doing is you're making your relationships transactional. Every relationship that you have now is like, well, but they didn't do this, but I did this. Like you're making it a transactional relationship. Stop making it about you. You have to understand that it is solely your responsibility to make you happy, and it's solely everybody else's responsibility to make them happy. And if what makes them happy doesn't align with you, you don't have to get down with it. But you don't get to judge it and try to take a round peg and squish it into a square hole. Okay? You just can't do that, because all that you're doing is you're thinking that that's also codependency, by the way. Now you're trying to be controlling, you're trying to be codependent in nature, and you're saying, okay, if you love me, this is how it is. If I love you, I'm going to go through your socials because I don't want you cheating on me. That's low self-esteem. Listen, nobody wants to be cheated on. Nobody wants to get, run over and not abused that way, but, like used. Nobody wants that. But the reality is, if you're constantly sitting in paranoia mode, then maybe you shouldn't be in a relationship at all. And that's just a fact. And I say this to people all the time. If you're dealing, and this is more or less for new relationships, because sometimes you've been in a relationship so long, again, I'm never going to co-sign staying for kids. But if you're in a new relationship and you've carried some baggage from an old relationship, and now because you're insecure because somebody cheated on you and you gave them your all, and you're with some new person and this new person seems really awesome, and you're like, I don't want to let this person go. I hope that they don't cheat on me. And now you're paranoid and you're going into their Instagram and you're worried about who's following. Okay, hard pass. I am never, ever going to co-sign going through somebody's stuff. A little different if you have a kid, right? A little different, because sometimes you do have to go through their stuff because you just do. Okay. I'm saying as an adult, I'm never going to co-sign going through somebody's socials. If you feel the need to do that and you go, well, I'm suspicious. Oh my God, I'm so suspicious. Then maybe you shouldn't be in the relationship. Because even if nothing is going on and you're walking around in suspicion, you're going to constantly in your brain accuse somebody of doing something that they're not doing. Okay? And it's like, you don't get to say that because you have low self-esteem that somebody else is going to have to make you feel better about yourself. Absolutely not. So there's a few things, right, that you can start doing, right, that is going to really help build on that. Number one is recognizing. Good Lord, new word. Recognizing what you're good at. And don't say you're not good at anything. Absolutely not. That means you take time, put everybody else on ice, and figure out what it is you're good at. I didn't say you're professional. I didn't say you're going to make a business out of it. And you're not going to start out the box being that way. That's how I was with my crochet. I love crochet. I always big it up. That's my favorite thing on the planet. So when you're doing your crochet or whatever it is that you're doing, recognize what you're good at. We are all good at something, and do not say, I'm good at taking care of people. Nope, that's codependency. Go deeper. What are you good at? And if you're like, well, I'm not sure. Good. Then you know what that means? That's a big sign that says, hey, I need to spend more time with myself. Maybe I'm good at reading. Maybe I enjoy reading. Maybe I really like it. I can really identify. I can go off and escape. And great. Then you're good at it. Then do more of that. See, you're always looking at what you're not doing good enough, what you're not bringing to the table. But not everybody is all bad. Listen, I've said that across the board. Not every human on this planet is 100% bad. They're just not. Okay, they're just not. So it's recognizing what that is. And maybe it's, maybe you're doing a crossword puzzle. Maybe you're really good at diamond art. It doesn't have to be over the top. Let's not make it more than it needs to be. But you want to focus on that. Obviously, you want to have positive relationships. You want to really foster the relationships that bring something to your table and that you bring to their table. So this doesn't mean making you feel better. This means someone who is going to call you on your crap. Like if you're really having a pity party and you've been in this pity party for a while, you don't need somebody to be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry all the time. And now we're here 3 months later. No, you need somebody who's going to be like, all right, I'm going to need you to stop. I'm not calling you until you get through this. And you may see that as being rude, but when you have self-esteem, you understand that this is the kind of friend you want. You don't want a friend that's just going to tell you that you're right all the time. That's not going to serve your best and highest good. And that's what I'm saying. You need to foster healthy relationships that are going to build you, that are going to be there to fix your crown, but they're not going to fix your crown if you don't want the crown fixed. Okay. Most importantly is being compassionate to yourself. You are supposed to screw up. I've said this countless times and I will say it again. You are supposed to screw up regularly. That's how we learn. Be kind to yourself. If you go back into people pleasing, that's okay. This has been your default for a while. You're working on it. Now you have more tools than you did before. You'll people please less. Don't think that this is going to be an overnight thing, because it's absolutely not. And the biggest thing with this is that's your assertiveness. You have to be direct. I'm going to tell you from the door, and people ask me all the time, how can I set a boundary and be kind? Okay, boundaries are not fluffy. Let's stop with that. Okay, I'm not asking you to be rude, but I am saying to be assertive. That means no is a complete sentence. That means being okay with saying, you know what? I do not owe you an explanation. Being able to say, hey, I do not allow myself to be spoken to that way. That's being assertive. If someone takes it as rude, it's not your way. It's not your job to process it, which obviously goes into like, no is a complete sentence. You already know that. No does not require a follow-up. Now, again, what I'm saying to you also pertains to you. So don't walk around and be like, oh, well, my sister just told me no. Like, she didn't even tell me why. That's okay. She doesn't have to. Well, what do you mean? Oh, you want her to tell you the why so you understand that it's not you and that you can approve her no. Hard pass. We're not doing that. And that's the whole thing, is to like really understand that. This goes into stop it. You know what I mean? Like, stop. Like, that's really what it goes into. And, you have to understand that these are old stories that are being told to you. And society is ridiculous in itself. I mean, it really is. Like, really, if you think about it, it's so funny. And that's why I love working with people in other cultures, because some of the happiest people I know are people that you'd be like, oh my God, I don't even know how I could even function that way. But they're so happy because they're all about the simplicity. They're not conforming. See, the problem is people want to go into conforming into how people want you to be. You got to stop that. And before you say, well, how can I build that self-esteem? You got to do the things scared. Yep. Stop waiting to feel confident to do the things. That is not how self-esteem works. You don't get self-esteem and then go do the things. You can't. You have to get self-esteem by falling, bumping your head, going, oh, damn, maybe I shouldn't trip over that rock again. And you go and you go, I ain't tripping over that rock. You trip over a different rock. That's okay. You got to do the things scared. You got to do the things and be okay with people not getting down with it. And, before you say why, because I know you're like, well, how do I do that? You accept that. That's your ego that's bucking up against that. Your ego says, well, if I do that, then I'm giving them permission to kind of treat me like hell. No, you're not. Listen, let them win. You guys know that. 2 + 2 is 98. Yes. Yep, it sure is. Let them win the day. That may be the only win that they have in their life or even in that day. When people, and this could be you too, when people need to get the last word and need to be right and need to be heard and need to be all these things, no, they're not winning anything. You're not winning anything. That's living in low self-esteem and living in the space that you need to be right. Choose. You can be right or you can be happy. You can't be both. Your happiness has to be okay. Your self-esteem has to be like, you know what? If I've decided today I'm having an OnlyFans page and my sister doesn't like it, she doesn't have to like it. Then maybe she shouldn't get an OnlyFans page. But her judgment of me is a reflection of her, not me. There's not a rule that says, oh, I'm 51 years old. I can't have an OnlyFans page. If I want to have an OnlyFans page, I am going to be out there. Now, my lady parts up top aren't as perky as they once were. I might look like I have cow udders, but there might be a market for it, and I'm here for it. But my point to that is, I don't care what other people think about it because I'm confident within myself. I look at my shortcomings and I tease on my own self. I have a huge forehead, huge. It's like real estate agents up there. Hey, the word on the streets is that you have a big forehead. You're super intelligent. I'm like, you damn straight I am. I am right next to Einstein then, because I have a big forehead. I'm okay with it. See, when you lean into your insecurities, people lose power in that. let's say you look at yourself and you say, I'm overweight. Okay. And you've heard me say this before, and I just use that because that's typically a lot, especially in for everyone, but women really struggle a lot with their body image, right? And if somebody knows that you're struggling with your body image, let's say it's your mom, your sister, your best friend, or society, whatever, and they make you, and they know it bothers you. See, you have to understand, you're literally giving somebody a remote control to your life. Lean into it. It shouldn't bother you, because if you're taking steps to correct or do whatever it is that you think that you need to do for yourself, stop thinking that everybody else has to do it for you. So if you lean into it and somebody gives you some kind of look because you go to McDonald's and they say to you, okay. I mean, didn't you say you're trying to lose weight? You're going to McDonald's? Oh yeah, I'm going to McDonald's. I'm actually going to get 2 Big Mac meals, and I think I'm going to get a fish sandwich a Sunday, and I might get a Diet Coke. Do you want something while I'm there? I mean, see, you have to lean into your insecurities. I'm embarrassed by nothing. Nothing. You're not going to embarrass me. You can try. It ain't going to, you're going to fall flat, because everything that I did, all my screw ups, and believe you me, I have had multiple. It's going to be in the book. I've had so many screw ups in my life, so many poor decisions, so many bad, so much, but I own it. That's the thing. You must take accountability without judgment. You're judging yourself based on the fact that you did something wrong, whatever that means, or bad, or whatever, or not, whatever. Embrace it. Because if somebody says that they have like something to blackmail you on or try to hold something over your head, they can't, because you're embracing it. But you can only embrace it when you understand that you're literally, you're giving somebody the remote control to your life right now. When you own it, own your fuckery, own it. I own it, and I will wear it like a hat. Yep. Walking train wreck, whatever, do whatever. But when you embrace it, you're literally taking away the power. So now they understand that their opinion of you really doesn't matter. So to build self-esteem, you have to be willing to be uncomfortable. You have to be willing to be okay with people not understanding you. You have to be okay with not winning the day. But I promise you, and I don't do many promises. I really don't. I promise you that if you lean into this and you start doing the work, it is hard work. Don't let me make it seem like it's easy. No, it's not supposed to be easy. It's hard work. Be okay with people not liking you. It's okay. Everyone in the world is not supposed to like you. You don't like everybody in the world. Don't try to be extra. You don't vibe with everybody, and that's okay. But even the people I don't vibe with, or the people that don't vibe with me, I'm still going to send them love and light. I want them to succeed in life, because why wouldn't I? Just because we don't vibe doesn't mean that I don't love you as a human. And again, and I said this at VidCon, don't tell me I can't love you if I don't know you. Why? People walk around hating people that they don't know all the time. Hello? Why can I not do the other way? Nah, I'm not going to get down with that. And I'm never going to look at things like I used to that was half empty all the time. I'm not going to. Because if you keep doing that, you're going to attract that. You can't look at shit as half empty and then say to yourself, I think I'm going to attract some abundance. No, you are not. You're going to attract exactly what it is that you don't want to attract. And you know what? We're going to talk about that in the next episode too, like the grounding piece of it. You have no idea how important that is for your abundance and your mental health and your peace. And it's going to build on what I just talked to you about in the self-esteem. So with that being said, I love you guys. Like I know that, listen, I promise you that you're worth it. You don't need me to even tell you this, but I'm going to. You're worth it. Screw everybody else. Stop it. Stop worrying about making them happy when they may not be happy with themselves. You can't do that. You got this. And you know what? I got you.